Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news. You're listening to the Bloomberg Intelligence Podcast. Catch us live weekdays at 10 a.m. Eastern on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app. Listen on demand wherever you get your podcasts or watch us live on YouTube.
That was President Trump speaking virtually to the crowd at Davos in the World Economic Forum. Borger Brende, he's the president of the World Economic Forum, kind of moderating that. Brian Moynihan, Bank of America, Blackstone, Stephen Schwartzman, Banco Santander's Ana Botín, and Total Energy's Patrick Pouyanné. Thank you very much. Asking questions. So we kind of spirited back and forth there. Let's get a little bit of a breakdown of kind of what we just heard over the last 45, 50 minutes. We can do that with Nick Wadhams. He is a U.S. national security reporter for Bloomberg News. He is based down in Washington, D.C. Nick, anything new for you in President Trump's remarks?
Well, to me, what you just saw there was a president who was in almost complete control. I mean, it's just an extraordinary moment, the amount of deference from these titans of industry from around the globe, essentially giving the president everything he wants. I mean, Brian Moynihan there dodging. The president criticizes Bank of America for allegedly not banking conservatives, and Brian Moynihan just kind of takes it and says thank you, and hey, we're getting ready to sponsor the Olympics. Trump demands OPEC lower prices, increase output. He tells everybody, listen, if you want to build in the U.S., that's great. Otherwise, we're going to tariff you. And the response is essentially applause. So an extraordinary dynamic where you just sort of see the degree to which global, the real power players who are all collected in Davos there are giving him an extraordinary amount of deference.
We were talking to Nathan Dean of Bloomberg Intelligence before, about last 2 hours, and said that he was looking for the confrontational or negotiator President Trump. If we parse him in those ways, which Trump did you just see?
I mean, sounded pretty confrontational to me, essentially saying, listen, if you don't build here, we're going to jack tariffs up on all of you. He criticized the EU. He takes a quick shot at Bank of America. He goes after OPEC. He also tells a story which is not 100% true on the issue of denuclearization. That part at the end, talks with Russia and especially China were essentially at a standstill at the end of his first administration on the idea of denuclearization. So very much in keeping with the president, where he is obviously in his milieu, feels very comfortable, but has no qualms about being extremely confrontational, presumably in part because he knows the response he's going to get, which is essentially applause and in some cases a little bit of awkward laughter, but there at the end, a hope that he'll come in person next year.
Nick, a lot of questions on Ukraine and the ability of the U.S. to play a role in ending that conflict here. What's the feeling within your realm, national security, about the role the U.S. can play and maybe the timing associated with it?
Well, the timing is obviously quite unclear. The president had said before he came into office that this was something he was going to be able to do to solve before Inauguration Day or within 24 hours. That obviously hasn't happened. What we've understood is that officials within the administration are recognizing the enormity of the task and that it may take some time. And that was one element I thought was quite interesting from President Trump, where he essentially said there, listen, this is something that is the ball is in President Putin's court. You know, he's saying Ukraine is ready to come to the table. So he can act very much as a point of leverage and a pressure point. But whereas before the inauguration, there was a lot of focus on Ukraine and his transition team saying really that Ukraine needed to come to the table, they're now really trying to put the pressure on Vladimir Putin. So though he's essentially saying he wants to talk to Putin, he respects him, I did see some more pressure there that this is really in Russia's court to kickstart the negotiations. But in terms of timing, they're really not willing to say at this point.
I was really struck by how much energy took center stage. I mean, clearly Total's CEO is there, so that was definitely part of it. But there were some clear statements made, like he will make sure that Europe gets U.S. LNG. He talked about coal. He did say clean coal, but that was going to be a backup for generation. Peabody Energy, which is a coal producer, spiking on that news. Europeans hate coal. So that was like something that was a pretty interesting moment. In your world, Nick, how much of an energy analyst do you have to become if you're national security and now you have President Trump in office?
I would say that's going to be a huge priority for all of us going forward. I mean, you know, in some ways, it's really no surprise. The president is essentially repeating elements, sometimes word for word, of his campaign speech. I don't think he mentioned his dislike for windmills there, but he has taken a bunch of actions already to essentially try to steer U.S. energy production away from renewables. You know, this really is at the center of his campaign and his ethos, that he believes the U.S. needs to increase energy production, and it really speaks to his sense of what the U.S. role is in the world as a provider of energy to other countries. He really sees it as a point of leverage for the United States, and that's something he's going to double down on, you can be certain, in the years to come.
And Nick, not surprisingly, President Trump also brought up the issue of immigration, illegal immigration in the United States, and perhaps deportations. What do we know at this early stage about the plans of this administration to implement maybe some deportation measures? To what extent will, I don't know, National Guard or even active duty troops be involved, if at all?
Well, the U.S. is in the process of deploying about 1,500 troops to the border, though it's unclear what exactly their role will be. The president has also sought to give more authority to various government agents around the country, and we do have reports coming in that some of those arrests have basically already started. So, I mean, he is absolutely determined to do this. We've heard today that Secretary of State Marco Rubio is in fact going to be going to several Central American countries in his first trip, and the point there really is to have conversations and say, listen, okay, we want to kick these people out. They have to go someplace. They have to have a place to go. The planes need to fly somewhere. So where is that going to be? A lot of focus right now on El Salvador, Guatemala, obviously, but you know, this is one of the top 2 or 3 priorities for this administration. Proceeding with those deportations and finding places that will receive those people. So negotiations are fully underway on that score.
All right, Nick, thank you so much. We appreciate that. Nick Wadhams, U.S. National Security Team Leader for Bloomberg News. Just give us a little recap of the comments we heard from President Trump, who spoke virtually to the audience at the World Economic Forum in Davos.
You're listening to the Bloomberg Intelligence Podcast. Catch the program live weekdays at 10 a.m. Eastern on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app. You can also listen live on Amazon Alexa from our flagship New York station. Just say, Alexa, play Bloomberg 1130.
Now, speaking of, we had initial jobless claims, the continuing claims rising to, I think it was like a 3-month high, but that's going to be distorted quite a lot by those LA wildfires. So Michael McKee is joining us, Bloomberg International Economics and Policy Correspondent. Do we know how the LA fires have now affected the readings for jobless claims?
Well, we have a rough idea. The number for California jobless claims last week was up by 7,000. Which doesn't seem like a lot, but the week before, which the fires were in that week as well, were up by 13,000. So you've got a number of people who have contributed to this slight rise we've seen in initial jobless claims. Slight, it's 223, up from 217, and most states saw declines. Now, we're in the holiday distortion period as well, so it's hard to get a clear read on what all this means. You referenced the continuing claims up to 1,899,000. That's getting a little bit of a boost from the California fires because the people that 13,000 who filed 2 weeks ago are still on the rolls. But what that's kind of telling us is something also that we already knew, that companies, they may not be letting people go, but they're not hiring either.
We're going to hear from President Trump's virtual speech in Davos in just about a half an hour as per schedule. Are you expecting economic topics to be discussed from the president?
Well,
It is the World Economic Forum.
It is the World Economic Forum, but it is Donald Trump, so it's really hard to know exactly what he's going to say. But you can bet that the audience of CEOs is going to be sitting there anxiously awaiting to see if he might say something about tariffs. That's from what I can glean of the Davos coverage, that seems to be the number one concern of people in Davos. They're also looking for more talk about deregulation because they feel that's an important thing for them. And so those two would be the subjects I think would get the most attention from the audience.
What are you working on right now at your desk? So here's the thing with Mike. He'll sit at his desk and he'll tinker. He'll read the most random reports.
Yep.
Then he'll make all these tie-ins and link a nice thesis together. And then he'll send it to me and be like, look at this. And then we'll talk about it on email. What are you going to send me in like an hour?
Well, I've been putting together a couple of things today.
See? I knew it.
One, I'm looking at the overall change in auto imports from Canada and Mexico since the USMCA, the replacement for NAFTA, came in to being, which was July 1st in 2020. And you can see it's quite interesting. The trade balance between the countries, our trade deficit widened with Mexico and Canada, Mexico somewhat significantly. But at the same time, over that period, the trade balance with China shrank. So, it's still too big for Donald Trump's liking, obviously, from what he says. But what we're seeing in terms of the cross-border Canada-Mexico stuff is that we're importing more things from them.
And is that the friendshoring impact, do you think, a little bit?
A lot of that's the friendshoring impact, and the fact that wages and costs are much lower in Mexico. So with a free trade agreement, it's been easy for companies, particularly auto companies, to move production to Mexico and then just import those cars because it doesn't cost them anything.
Also, oil. Our biggest importer of oil is Canada. Because they have heavy oil.
They import our oil.
Other way around.
Oh,
we import their oil.
Okay.
We still import a bunch of oil, and our biggest trading partner for that is Canada. So that's also a big one there.
That's going to be an interesting
Oh, I know.
question.
We'll talk about that later.
Whether the Canadians actually
do something about that. All right, Mike, thanks a lot. Mike McKee, Bloomberg International Economics and Policy Correspondent, on the nerdy things that he is looking at right now.
You're listening to the Bloomberg Intelligence Podcast. Catch us live weekdays at 10 a.m. Eastern on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app. Listen on demand wherever you get your podcasts or watch us live on YouTube.
At Alix Steele and Paul Sweeney, we're live here in our Bloomberg Interactive Broker studio. We are streaming live on YouTube as well, so head over to youtube.com, search Bloomberg Podcast Live, and that's the easy way to find us. Donald Trump, self-proclaimed greatest friend to the crypto space, Elon Musk in his inner circle. That's got to help. What does that mean for the crypto space over the next several years? Ayesha Kiani joins us, Chief Operating Officer for MNNC Group. She joins us here in our Bloomberg Interactive Broker studio. Your community, the crypto community, are you enthused about having President Donald Trump back in the White House? Is it positive for the crypto world or not so much? Or is it too early to tell?
Too early to tell. So it's been both mixed signals. We obviously he's made the right moves with, a task force at SEC, with, the right CFTC chairman. Yes, all of those are, the right moves and the moves we've been anticipating. But what happened over the weekend was that Trump launched his own meme coin.
Wait, did I miss this? Okay.
Yeah, you missed it.
I missed it.
You missed it. Everyone missed it other than us, the industry folks. And we were basically like, what is happening? And then Melania launched a Trump coin on Sunday night.
Nice. What does that mean to launch a coin?
You just go on, so in this case, you go on Solana's blockchain and you launch a coin.
I'm going to launch a steel coin.
A steel? Yeah.
Yeah, why not?
Yes, I'm done.
Does it trade?
Yes, it does. It trades in crypto markets. It decentralized.
Does it have a value today?
I mean, combined, both of the coins had a combined value of 40 billion at a point. 40 billion with the B. 40 billion with the B. Yes.
Yeah. So help us understand.
I was watching football this weekend. I wasn't.
You were not focused on that.
Meme coin.
Yeah.
Okay.
help us understand like the meme coin situation and all the froth versus the reality of crypto changing under Trump administration.
I would call meme coins the froth.
Right.
And that's a very bad look on us, and that's a very bad institutional look of the entire industry. That's something, we do not support. What, we're here to support is Bitcoin, ETH, Solana as like the real asset, so the real tech. But if you're just going to go launch a coin, so I wanted to mention the stats here today because Chain Analysis just ran the research report yesterday. So 50% of Trump and Melania had never bought a Solana altcoin before. 47% of buyers created their wallets the same day they purchased the tokens. And then 83% of the holders own sub $1,000 of Solana assets. So he onboarded this many people on Solana's blockchain for the ecosystem.
So is that, and the suggestion is these, for lack of a better word, investors don't really, we have no idea to know who they are, or maybe how educated they are.
Exactly, and right? Like what's the value? What's the intrinsic value, right? Yeah. If you're going to invest in Bitcoin or ETH or Solana or Avalanche, there's an intrinsic value to it. It's a trusted blockchain. But what's an intrinsic value to a meme coin?
Okay.
I don't know. I think that's probably the point, right? So what are you guys talking about in class? Also, you don't you teach at MOU?
I teach,
you teach MOU, right?
Yeah.
What are you guys talking about when it relates to crypto and regulation? What's like the zeitgeist there?
Obviously all positive news for us, going forward, starting this administration. That's what we're looking forward to. Is this a commodity? Are all of them commodities? Are all of them utilities? Or are we just going to give this a new share class or a new asset class? That's one thing. The other thing is that obviously on how the tech works. So something that this meme coin craze over the weekend did was it kind of pointed out faults in our own space, right? Like Coinbase, the largest retail institutional exchange, had issues. Solana, the blockchain itself, had issues, right? Are we ready? Are we ready to onboard this many users? So I would be opening up my semester with that. Normally I do it with Bitcoin, but this time I would say, guys, this is the perfect use case, right? Does it work? Does it not work? Which case worked? Which case didn't work? And we can analyze it chain by chain, what broke at what point.
What is the expectation of the industry about regulation under a Trump administration? Is this something that you expect the SEC to take the lead, the CFTC, something new?
So he has set up a special task force at SEC, and Caroline Pham, the acting chair at CFTC, is also very pro-crypto. I've known her for a while, phenomenal person. It's just that they have a better understanding of the asset. So when we'd go, for guidelines, or when we'd go to help, or when we'd ask for more clarity, they know what we're talking about, other than just being an onshore asset or an offshore asset.
So it's less like open season for crypto, and it's more just like the people in the positions have the right kind of language to sort of move things along in a helpful way.
That's
maybe.
correct.
Or does someone understands like the words you're saying if you're talking about crypto?
Right.
So based on that, what's realistic in this administration, and what is the stuff that we should be ignoring, like the strategic reserve kind of thing? Like what's real, what's not?
I think anything that touches Bitcoin and anything touches Ethereum or anything that touches any of the original legacy coins is real, right? Bitcoin Reserve, yes, that should be real, because Bitcoin does have a limited supply. But like launches of meme coins to generate additional wealth under World Liberty Financial, that is considered froth.
Okay, so the strategic reserve, Alix is familiar with this, for oil. You think it has some value that should be considered for Bitcoin?
Yeah, I think it does. Because, again, limited value, limited number, limited quantity, only 21 million in value, 21 million in quantity, 19 million and change have already been mined. So, and oil, you can still keep on drilling, right? Like, you'd find oil at like unknown places still. But Bitcoin, we cannot go back and change the code to make it from 21 million to 25.
All right. I mean, fair enough.
Yeah.
Ayesha, thanks very much. It was so good to get your perspective. We love having you on. Ayesha Kiani, Chief Operating Officer at MNNC Group and professor at NYU. What's your class called?
Introduction to Blockchain and DLT.
Don't you feel like we should take that class?
Yeah. Can we come down and audit? Can we come down and audit it?
I mean, kind of, right?
I'll send you my lectures, and the more he keeps on making these announcements, I feel like the more I'll be coming here. So I'll start just sending you my lectures.
Okay, we'll take it.
This is the Bloomberg Intelligence Podcast, available on Apple, Spotify, and anywhere else you get your podcasts. Listen live each weekday, 10 a.m. to noon Eastern on Bloomberg.com, the iHeartRadio app, TuneIn, and the Bloomberg Business app. You can also watch us live every weekday on YouTube and always on the Bloomberg Terminal.